So, okay. Well, that's my most fascinating team. You, I think, had Clemson as your most fascinating team.
Yeah, only because I didn't want to pick Miami as a biased fan, but yeah, no, Clemson for me, I think is fascinating for a lot of the same reasons, you know, higher level meta narrative reasons as Miami. I think they're at a crossroads. Clemson is of really trying to figure out what they're going to be as a program. Are they going to come into the 21st century, and are they going to enter the transfer portal era, the NIL, kind of all this that really they're going to need to, or is college football just going to pass by Dabo Swinney and therefore pass by the program? And I think the hire of, the hire Garrett Riley this year, and I think that was the first time they've really gone outside of the family, so to speak, to make a hire. And I think it was a really good one with Garrett Riley. But this is a team, right? They lose, four guys on the defense that were drafted within the first 3 rounds, day one, day two picks in the NFL draft. So they're losing some people defensively. Offensively, they got a lot coming back. I think they essentially lost Joseph Inada and then an offensive lineman, but most of their contributors are coming back, and then Kate Klubnik is taking over. And so I think this is a team that, for me, for my pick, they should be a team that can win the ACC. I mean, I think it's probably we'll pick conference champions later, but I think they're a team that should be up there with one other team in the conference championship game. And I think Garrett Riley should be able to unlock things. I think the big question mark for this team, I'm going to trust whatever they put on the field defensively because they just got that unlock, over the years. But I think offensively, the big question is, do they have, can their offensive line pass block? Because they could not do that last year. I don't think they're a very good offensive line personally. And two, do they have a wide receiver one? And that scares me because I don't see a wide receiver one on that team. And I think the talent's just not there that they've had in the past. And I don't know if Will Shipley and Phil Maffa can really carry this team. So that's the biggest question mark: wide receiver, offensive line. I'm a huge Kate Klubnik fan. I think he's from Austin, so that's a little bit of it. But I think he throws with great anticipation, and I'm afraid that he's not going to learn how to throw from a pocket because he can never get a pocket. But if they can do that for him, and if Garrett Riley can manufacture some time for him, I think they can be all right. So I'll stop there and let you guys interject a little bit, and we can have a conversation.
I mean, they can just they can stroll the ball to Will Shipley too. They don't need to throw it to anybody else. Just throw it to him. He's really good, actually. Yep. He's a really good running back. The thing is, and again, we'll talk about. I think Clemson is a really interesting team. I want to save some of my Clemson pieces for that. But no, it is going to be last year they did not have a particularly good year, and yet somehow they won the conference. I was like if you were midway through the year and you're and Clemson's going to win the ACC, I'm like, wait, what? How did that? This was a team that barely won a lot of their games. They almost lost to Syracuse, and then a couple weeks later they're oh, we're going to win the ACC now. What? Okay, and they destroyed North Carolina. Right. It wasn't even particularly close. I was like, wow, okay, and then they go to a bowl. And then it's oh, well, I guess Clemson was good, I guess. And then they just get destroyed by Tennessee. It's well, that's weird. And that was a Tennessee team on their backup quarterback. So yeah. It's a very interesting team for them for this year. And I don't know what to make of them yet, but I think you just kind of have to say, yeah, okay, they're probably one of the best teams in the conference. My most interesting team for next year, I'll go with Duke, actually. I think this is an interesting team that made a big step up last year. The question is, I really liked their quarterback last year, Riley Leonard. I think if he makes another big step up, they've added a couple pieces around him. Could this team potentially compete with Clemson? I think so. The other teams, I know we'll talk about them, but I have stuff saved for them, so I don't want to spoil my stuff about them. But I kind of think this conference is kind of a big. Outside of Clemson, there's kind of a power vacuum there for number 2, and I think potentially Duke could be that number 2. Now, I could be wrong. Again, regression candidates, they're everywhere. there's so many of them as doing these previews. It's like, okay, this team's going to regress, this team's going to regress, but like, and Duke is like a potential candidate for it. But I like their new head coach has got them finally doing things. They had a really good year last year, and I think maybe they could actually they could be second. They could be they could be going to the conference championship next year.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. What's interesting to me is we spoke about this, I think, in one of the preseasons, and obviously at the end of last season, was their 4 losses were by a total of 16 points. And somehow Kay Ford, I rely on his metrics a lot. He has them regressing by 2.2 games, which is weird because his metrics about improvement and regression really line up most of the time with my good luck and bad luck. And I show them with no luck, for last year, which I still can't get considering he lost 4 games by a total of 16 points. The thing that, going back to my, my rule of thumb for new head coaches, Elko took that defense in 2021. I had a defensive rating for them of negative 11.5. And he moved them up to a negative 2.4, which just 9 points is just ridiculous. I mean, it's just amazing. So I think they actually take a step up again. Circa has them, their total at 6. The over's at minus 130, which makes sense, but kind of feels like they're getting a pat on the head for last year and a attaboy and just go back to the lower middle class. I think they are at least as good as last year. They also lost literally 0 of their Ryan from last year. None. Yeah. So everybody that was productive in any way catching the ball returns. So
yeah, and Jordan Moore. Yeah, and Jordan Moore should take another step forward in that offense. I mean, he's a guy that is trying to figure out how to play wide receiver last year, right? He was still in the QB battle in fall camp, and then comes on, and that guy's dynamic. I mean, he's a guy that could be a great weapon in that offense. And I'm with you guys on Duke. I love Duke. I mean, I think that'll definitely break the total that Vegas has on them. My biggest concern for Duke, though, is the schedule. I mean, so they don't get Virginia, they don't get Virginia Tech, they don't get Boston. I don't think they get Boston College. I mean, the restructure of the ACC, actually, they get Virginia. My mistake, but they don't get a lot of the bottom teams that other teams get the advantage of. So they're in conference is it's just kind of tough, to be honest. They start off with Clemson, and then they got to play Florida State and UNC. I mean, so they get a lot of those kind of top heavy teams. NC State, that's always coached well. So that would be my only concern for Duke. But if they win 9 games again or 10 games again, like Mike Elko is going to get some huge job. He's not staying at Duke because, I mean, you can. I think we would probably agree with this, but I judge a guy, and this is where anti-Mario Cristobal right here, but by his coordinator hires right away. So when Halfley from Boston College hires John McNulty, I'm out on that guy. I already know McNulty's a horrible OC, and I don't want any part of that. But Kevin Johns from Duke has put up some great offenses in the past. And
where's he from? I don't know his background, but man, he just made a big difference.
Air raid guy, Texas Tech. He was at Memphis with Mike Norvell.
Oh, okay.
So he's kind of traveled around a little bit. I believe he was at Auburn too. Maybe took a little bit of the fall. I think maybe from Gus Malzahn. I can't remember, but but Texas Tech, his air raid background. He's put together some good offenses in the past, and he's a great hire. I mean, he did a really good job this last year. And so I love Elko. I love Duke. I worry a little bit about that schedule. I mean, those are just, if any injuries happen from playing some of those tough games early, that can be hard.
Hey, fair. Last thing on Duke about the schedule. They get a bit of a short straw in conference, but they're non-conference. Lafayette, Northwestern, which looks even more juicy, at Connecticut. Yep. Then they have Notre Dame. I'm curious, what would you all make the line? They host Notre Dame. What would you guys make the line on that right now?
It's going to be something. No, I bet. I don't know what the line is offhand, but I bet you the Vegas line is Notre Dame minus 7.5.
That's exactly my number. Yeah.
Wow.
Literally, I had 7.5.
That's probably the Vegas line. I'd probably make that lower.
Can we take that right now?
Yeah.
I'd love to take that.
Well.
If I could take that right now, I'd do it. Yeah, but I'd take that. Yeah, 100%. I'd probably make that down to like a 3.5, but like I'd probably take Duke. Again, just fun thing about Duke lines. Last year we were able to get Duke plus 7.5 against Northwestern. It was just laughable.
Yeah.
Like I remember that. I was like, what is this line? Yeah. And we just, that was amazing. It was like plus 200 something money line. It was insane. I'm like, what? And like that was just, and like again, Northwestern still hasn't won a game since playing in Ireland. So like, and now it's not looking good. Like it's just that's we're not talking about the Big Ten
story for another day.
Story for another day. But it's like that guy actually probably would have been on the hot seat before like this year maybe if they did badly. But then that just gotten taken care of. So yeah.
I don't know if they'd ever. Well, they found out what it takes to fire the guy. I'll put it that way. All right. Yeah. You threw me off there with Duke. So should I go again? Should I go next?
Is this your most fascinating team?
No. Just that was your most fascinating team. All right. So let's just kind of go in order then. All right. Do you want to do Florida State then?
Yeah,
I'll do them, right?
Kick us off with Florida State. So again, Florida State is it's going to be an interesting team for this year. Where did I have Florida State? Oh, there we go. There was a random space there. Okay, Florida State. So I put them as kind of a blobby team, maybe down a bit. The thing is, again, obviously they've got a great quarterback in Jordan Travis, pretty good head coach. But like, and again, a lot of people expected them to kind of rise last year, and they did mostly. I mean, they beat LSU in the season opener in that crazy game. And that was a really positive sign, and they had a lot of good signs. They had a big step up from the year before to last year. But the problem was they still, even then, based on what your expectations were of them when they beat teams like LSU and stuff, you expected more from them. There was a loss against NC State. There was a loss against Wake Forest, I believe. There were a lot of losses on that schedule that shouldn't have been there if they were playing at that same level all season. They were not consistently at that high level. And my concern for this team, and this is why I say lobby may be down, is the fact that, again, this is a regression candidate, a team that overperformed from... Now, they had been getting better for a couple of years, and this is kind of like Arkansas back a bit, too. They're getting better, and then last year they kind of took a step back. I kind of feel like that could be Florida this year. Again, it's those losses. Like, they shouldn't have lost to NC State. They shouldn't have lost to Wake Forest last year. Again, the difference between a good and a great team is those losses like that. Like if you pulled out those wins, I'd be like, yeah, sure, Florida State could win the conference. And that's not knocking against the quarterback. I think he's good, possibly heading to the NFL. But for me to really get behind a team and say, okay, I'm going to bet you to win the conference, go to the conference championship game, you can't have those losses. And that's my concern with Florida State. That's why I'm kind of saying they're maybe going to trend down a little bit. They still have a good quarterback, but I think this year we might see a bit of kind of like regression, kind of like we saw with Arkansas last year.
Wow. All right, Josh, you take that on first.
Yeah, well, I guess I would be. I'm hard pressed to see a regression personally because they're returning so much production. So 80% production on the offense, 94% on the defense, and then they added in Keon Coleman at wide receiver, Jaheim Bell at tight end. They lost Trayshawn Ward, but they got to Philly. They got another guy named Rodney Hill coming in. And then, they got Trey Benson, who is just, from an advanced stats metrics, was just incredible. And so, if Jordan Travis gets hurt, and as much as you said, they pulled off the LSU win. And, they had those mystery losses. But if they don't lose to Wake Forest and they don't lose to NC State, then we're talking about them as a potential, playoff team. So, I don't know. Norvell is a genius when it comes to offense, and I think his greatest example of that is Jordan Travis being a competent quarterback, because he wasn't 2 years ago, and so I don't know. You add in a lot of firepower to that. Like Jaheim Bell is a weapon, and if you know how to use him right. And Mike Norvell does know how to use guys like him well. See Sean Dykes from Memphis a couple years ago who used really well in a similar role. And then Keon Coleman. I just think this is going to be a hard offense to stop. And so then it comes down to, can that defense, maintain. But we'll see. I mean, if they regress, then I would be very happy. So I hope you're right, Robert.
Well, and this is the question, like, which was the real Florida State team? Was it the team that beat LSU, or was it the team that lost those games? And I think that's the question, and we don't have an answer to that yet, but we will in a couple months.
Yeah. I couldn't be as far away from your opinion, any more farther from your opinion, Robert. I actually had them 5th overall in total rating in FBS last season. So I'm just going to go to that and just kind of chalk it up to, maybe they just figured out how to win some of these games, because they were just unstoppable towards the end of the season after that stupid lull that they had. I have Jordan Travis as actually the 4th best rated quarterback returning. They're 20th in GGAB ground game against Boston College, and they have the most experienced OL in all of college football by BuckMetrics. It's a second year under Alex Atkins. I know that the offense is basically a Norvell production, but I think Atkins has been a good influence. Defense, I had him 16th. They weren't as good as the offense, and they don't project to improve that much, but I think they're good enough. If you throw out the COVID year, this is like your classic year 3 setup of the new coach, where kind of all the pieces have fallen into place. The total for them at Circa is 10 and over is even. I don't think I can bet that, just because I think LSU is going to be a tough game, and I don't want to leave myself just like one game margin.
Right.
But as soon as I did my analysis of them, I went to my guy and I grabbed him at 20-1 to win the playoff. 20-1 is pretty generous, because I think there's only about 5 teams that can actually win the title, and they have all the numbers to say so, and like kind of the intangibles outside of knowing how to win a close big game, which is the last piece. But that kind of, it happens when it happens, and once it happens, you don't get those teams at 20-1, you get them at 4-1.
Fair.
So I'm super, super bullish on Florida State.
Yeah. And again, like, Mike Norvell is an offensive genius. I mean, and you look at Kenny Dillingham, right? He goes to Oregon. He's from Norvell's coaching tree. Now he's at Arizona State the year after. I mean, this guy has put several guys on the map, and he's young, right? He's got to be early 40s, if not younger. But so this guy, I was upset when Florida State got him, and he was not given his cupboard was bare, and he's turned it really quickly. And so we'll see, though. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to do North Carolina, Robert?
Okay, I guess I'll go right after each other then. Okay. So North Carolina is actually kind of, in some ways, kind of similar to Florida. So obviously you've got Drake May, kind of similar Heisman hype, and in some ways kind of similar, comparable to Jordan Travis. Heisman hype, potential NFL star, lot of hype for him for next season. At the end of the season, there's a ton of Drake May hype. And the thing is, again, quick, like the second when the Heisman odds came out, I immediately looked at them, as most people do. And the first one, the top one off the board is Caleb Williams, USC. And the thing is, when you look at this, a lot of the times they don't repeat, so usually it's not the same one that wins it again. So first one off the board, USC. That's whatever. Next up, Drake May at I think it was 8-1 initially. It's 10-1 now. But the thing is, I was like, oh well, maybe that's a good bet, because there's a ton of hype around Drake May. But the problem is, and as we discussed last year on the podcast, the Heisman is no longer just the most outstanding player in college football. It's like the best player on one of the best teams. Yep. And generally one of the best teams is either a team that is going to the playoffs or like was very, very close to going to the playoffs. And the thing is, I cannot trust that Mac Brown is not going to blow a very winnable game somewhere. Like, I can't. And that's the thing, right? And if you're betting on Drake May to win the Heisman, you're betting on them going to the conference championship game or winning the conference championship game and then not randomly losing to some random team, like, oh, they're going to lose. Not even just Duke. It'll be some other random team. Like, even like they'll beat Duke and then they'll lose to someone else. Like, this happens. It's happened a lot. It's why he's no longer the head coach of Texas. Like, you can't, like, 10-1 to have him not lose a random game. That's not a good bet, right? And like, is it going to be a good team? Yeah, it's going to be a good team. They're going to win a lot of games, go to a bowl. But then Drake May's not going to play in that bowl because he's going to be getting ready for the NFL, and that's not going to be a college football playoff game. So that's the thing. So yeah, is he going to get drafted in the NFL? Yeah, but I can't get behind this team to win the ACC. So I've got this as lobby. I think they were pretty good last year. I think they'll be pretty good this year, but they're going to blow a couple of winnable games.
Let me follow that because I've got some thoughts that I want to throw to Josh on specific to North Carolina.
Yep.
Since he really knows coordinators better than me, clearly. The change from Longo to Chip Lindsey offensively is okay. I don't have to finish your question, right? It just, I'm going to be nice and just say Chip Lindsey's a whatever. And that's generous. I don't think that Chip Lindsey is going to ever go in the Hall of Fame of offensive coordinators that have gotten the absolute best out of their talent. I almost think that there's a little bit of a shell shock factor here where after Phil Longo kind of destroyed the defense, that he just wanted somebody that could actually, give his defense like a tight end to practice against. And that was kind of like thing one on the resume. So I think that the offense takes a huge step back, but the defense weirdly gets better. And again, coordinators better than I do, so take it from there, please.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if a guy has parlayed. So history of Chip Lindsey, okay? And I might have this a little bit wrong, so people can fact check me on this, but I'm pretty sure I have it right. But it's been years. 2014, 2015. I believe that he was the offensive coordinator at Southern Miss. I believe he was the offensive coordinator for a Todd Monken. And then he parlays that.
Yeah. Okay.
Remember that offense? I mean, he had Nick Mullins, I think. I mean, he had a bunch of different guys. He had a couple, I think 2 or 3 1,000-yard receivers.
Yeah.
But so anyways, he was there, and then he goes and he replaces, I believe he replaced Mike Norvell as the OC at Arizona State.
Yep.
And then he goes, I believe, to is either Auburn or Troy next.
Auburn.
And Auburn as OC, and really flames out. He was terrible there at, well, really it's Gus Malzahn, but but Chip Lindsey was terrible at Arizona State, and he just did nothing with that offense. And then he goes to Auburn, does nothing, and then he goes to Troy and he ruins their offense as well. I mean, this guy has somehow failed up several times, and I don't understand how. I mean, because he goes back with Malzahn to UCF, and he doesn't. I mean, their offense was okay last year, but it wasn't because of Chip Lindsey. I can guarantee that. So I don't know what Mac Brown was thinking. I mean, the best chance you have is with Drake May, and I don't know what Chip Lindsey offers you. I don't know what they sold him on this, because he should have transferred out to Alabama or whatever, because, not that the offense is going to be terrible, but Chip Lindsey's just not it.
No.
This guy he wants to run a power run scheme, and yeah. Go ahead.
Now that you mention it, I forgot that Drake May, wasn't he in the transfer portal for like 3 days?
Yeah, or it was rumored, right? It was like, was he in the portal?
He was in the. I believe he was like officially in the portal for like a day or two, and then it's like, oh, I'm North Carolina all the way. I just assumed that someone just cut him a big check, but maybe that's why.
I'm just wondering about the timing of that versus when Chip Lindsey was hired. I'd love to go back and check that out. You and I are of similar minds on that.
Yeah, he had to get sold on Chip Lindsey, which they sold him on something. They sold him on, I think, that he's going to run more like NFL routes and have more of a pro style offense that'll get him ready for the NFL. And look, they got talent at the wide receiver position. I think they've restocked well, but I don't trust Chip Lindsey. I mean, if you mess up what Mike Norvell gives you and Todd Monken, like, that's on you, man. Like, you're just not a good OC.
Right then, what you said there, you said they sold him on, it's going to be a pro-style offense similar to the pros, could help your draft stock. You didn't mention their win a conference championship. You didn't mention go to the college football playoff. Like if the sales package was we're going to help your draft stock, and he's like, yeah, okay, that sounds fine. It's not like, yeah, we're going to win the conference championship game. So that's important to note there.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a big UNC fan. I'm definitely a stare down because of the Chip Lindsey hire, and I don't know what they're doing with Gene Chizik. That like they're not fixing anything defensively, or they haven't so far. I'm a little bit concerned.
I think we'll see with Phil Longo, and just listening to the Big Ten podcast. I'll just put it that way. There's a Phil Longo thing that will kind of fill in some blanks there.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, Josh, Louisville.
Yes. Oh, that's me. I'm up.
That's you.
Yeah.
Yes.
No. So Jeff Brom takes over right this year. They're one of the new teams, and for me, this team, I have them in the category of stare up, and I have that because one, I think that they have a pretty easy schedule heading into this year. I think they're going to miss, again, a lot of these bottom teams like Virginia Tech, those type of teams. And I think that's going to help them in the win-loss column. And Jeff Brom is another one that's an offensive genius. He always has a great wide receiver one. He can also support two wide receivers in that offense. He has made lemonade out of lemons with quarterbacks in the past. And they got Jack Plummer coming in, who was with him at Purdue.
Yep.
Jack Plummer.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's Jack Plummer, yeah.
Jack Plummer. Got confused in my head with Jake Plummer. Jack Plummer coming back in, and he came back, and he, by all signs, like, he looks good. We'll see about that. I'm a little bit skeptical, but Kevin Coleman transfers in from Jackson State, which is a little bit misleading because he was actually a top 100 recruit, top 150 recruit that Dion convinced to go there at the last minute. But he's a high-level talent. And then they got Jamari Thrash coming in from Georgia State, 1,000-yard receiver there. Guys like Jim Nagy, who runs the Senior Bowl, think that guy's potential day 2 pick, maybe even early day 3, so round 3, round 4 talent. All signs are that this guy's going to be the guy. And Jeff Brom's going to have an offense, and I think that's all they're going to need for really, I think what they're going to need to do. And they're not going to break down any doors. I'm not saying that, but I think they could win 8 games, right, and be decent. And I think if they got that Papa John's money and Adidas money, and I think they could. They made some NIL moves that are very interesting, and so I think this could be a stare up for them in the sense of acquiring some talent in the future.
I actually really do like their move.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love the Plummer move. He was actually pretty good last year at Cal. I really like. The model randomly liked a lot of Cal plays, and I think they didn't work out because the rest of the team was horrible. But he was the bright spot on that team, and I think that's actually a pretty good. That bodes well. I think Louisville for me is like it's going to be the encapsulation of like a random Louisville plus 7.5, and I'm like, yeah, I'll love that 7.5. Right? I think that's going to be what Louisville is for me this year. It's going to be like great value on a spread play, and maybe even a little bit of a money line here or there. But I think you're going to get a lot of like Louisville catching points, and I think that's a great place to play them. I feel comfortable doing that with this team.
Yeah, the Jamari Thrash. I don't think you can overstate how big that is. I actually had him 3rd in the entire nation in Ryan ranking. That's one of those huge moves, and it's weird that. Brom always has like one of those receivers that just frightens you if you're a defensive coordinator. He's just one and only one, but he's got his guy there. I'm kind of I don't know what to expect on defense. I never liked Brom's defenses at Purdue. And what's weird is, it took Satterfield a while to get the defense fixed, and he finally did. And now they kind of start over again. I don't know how much of that was getting guys to fit a specific scheme for a pretty well thought of defensive coordinator. So it's just, I don't know. It could be something to watch. When you said 8, that's the total at Circa Sports. Here's the other thing too. Satterfield actually has a better resume than Brom. Now, if we say Satterfield, where the administration is poisoning the Gatorade container, it's a different thing. And I think that explains a lot of it. But and Brom's clearly going to get all the support in the world. And I think highly of Brom. He's one of my few actually good luck as a skill coaches. But don't oversell this as like he's taking over for Daryl Hazel like he did at Purdue. He's taking over for a good coach that was just in a weird spot. So I think 8's the right number. I think I think Vegas has it right, and I think you got it right on that. And for some reason, Josh, you wanted to talk about Georgia Tech.
Wasn't who I wanted to talk about. It was assigned, and so here we are.
Did the homework.
Yeah, but we can talk about Georgia Tech. We'll keep this short, right? I do like a couple things I like about them. I was shocked that they hired Brent Key. I mean, I think it's only because he's got ties to Georgia Tech. That thing just seems like a cluster. All of last year. They lose Jeff Sims, right? They lose, he's the main guy. Also, there's Nate McCollum, who went to UNC, is doing well there as a slot guy. But they bring in Haynes King, Trevion Cooley from Louisville, and then Christian Leary from Bama, and then Dominic Blaylock. And then basically, I think the best hire they made was Buster Faulkner, which I think Buster Faulkner can actually do pretty decent here at Georgia Tech. I think there was talks right between him and Mike Bobo as the guy to take over as OC for Todd Monken when he went to the Baltimore Ravens. But so I like Faulkner. I like some of these pieces potentially, but what are we actually talking about here? I mean, it's Georgia Tech. They were so bad last year.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if they finish like 9th in the conference, then that is like Mike Elko, Duke style. Like I'm singing Brent Key's praises next year because this is bad. But there's a lot of bad teams at the bottom, to be quite honest, in the ACC. I mean, this conference is like just I'm surprised at how bad it's gotten. As far as the bottom half of the conference.
The lower middle class is just a drag. And it's why just sometimes it's like, wow, I don't even know if I want to watch this, which takes a lot for me to say about a college football game. Here's some interesting, surprising facts on Georgia Tech. They actually went 4-4 after Collins was fired, which, I kind of had to check 3 times just to make sure I wasn't misreading. Their 4 wins included wins at Pitt, at North Carolina, and home versus Duke. I mean, these aren't teams that just barely slid into bowl games.
Yeah.
And yet, their home loss, their losses, it also included a home loss to Virginia. Not possible. Yeah. They were by far Miami's best game of the season. I guess against a Power 5 team. We're going to throw out that Bethune-Cookman, whatever that was. But, they're not serious about college football. The Brent Key thing is just another sign of that. They could have had Willie Fritz, but they didn't want to wait for the Cotton Bowl. Awesome, guys. You didn't want to wait a month, and so you're just going to throw your program away. Literally, that's it. 1 month. It's not like it's going to make a difference in recruiting. So dumb. They're not serious about football.
How perfect of a fit is Willie Fritz at Georgia Tech?
Yeah, literally.
Crazy.
Yeah. All right. Robert, what do you got on Georgia Tech?
Yeah. Lobby. Again, the same thing is, I saw it. They won 5 games. I'm like, wait, they what? They won 5 games? It's just that was crazy. I'm like, no, but they did. And yeah, again, North Carolina, random loss there. There you go. No, Mac Brown's got this, guys. No, but this is the thing, right? Georgia Tech is going to be they're probably gonna, maybe they improve a little bit. How much of that, those 4 wins was, oh, okay, like, one, you caught a lot of those teams sleeping. They had been doing really well. You caught North Carolina sleeping. You caught some of the other ones. But the thing is, how much of that was we got rid of the head coach we hated, and they're, I don't know, just playing for a guy they like. They probably didn't think he was going to be the head coach, right? And again, when you're playing a team that's just got a brand new head coach, you're like, what are we basically game planning for, right? It's kind of hard to game plan for some of the stuff. I think that could have attributed it to, but now there's a ton of games on this that I'm like, okay, now we know what we're looking for, and I think this could go badly, I guess. But I'm gonna just say lobby, and I guess it did improvement. I don't know if having or keeping or getting rid of Jeff Sims is better. I'm not sure which was a better option, but yeah, he's not there anymore, so. He was randomly good.
Yeah.
He was randomly good in like 2 games, but then he was horrible in the end. Like there's like a games with like 130 rush passing yards. It's like, yeah, okay, this is
yeah, and I'll believe it when I see it. But apparently he's looking good at Nebraska, and that kid has talent. I don't know if he can read a defense, and I don't know any of that stuff, but holy smokes, like if Jeff Sims goes to Nebraska and is like legit, I don't know. There's a lot of talent wasted at Georgia Tech with Collins, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. I think you just gave the most dispassionate epitaph ever. Well, he's not there anymore. Okay, we'll move on. That's just... all right. I wanted to talk about Virginia Tech. And this is literally just based on a couple of moves. Their offense was absolutely horrible last year. Their defense was meh, although it was a little bit... I saw some signs of life under Pry on defense.
Mm-hmm.
They had to get rid of Grant Wells at quarterback, which they did. I forget where he landed, or maybe he's the backup, but they brought in a guy from Baylor, the backup from Baylor, which has to be an upgrade. Grant Wells just really had a fetish for throwing the ball to the other team. So hopefully that gets fixed.
Yeah, we'll see. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
No, that's okay. All right. Just hold on a second then. I've got more for you. Not on Virginia Tech, but I'll get back to you in a second on something else. Huge move in the offseason. They got Ollie Jennings from Ollie Jennings III, from Old Dominion. I had him 15th nationally in Ryan, and he was only healthy for 7 games. He might have been the best receiver, raw numbers in all of college football if he had been able to stand healthy. And his quarterback, when not throwing to him, just absolutely stunk. So it was just, he was clearly a one-man band. So I think they make an improvement this season. They went 3-8. They missed that game against Virginia because of the horrible shooting. Their total is 5, and 6 might be a little aggressive, but I think that if they don't land on 5, it's more likely to be over than under. One sign of progress was, they're 12-point favorites over Old Dominion, and I don't think they would have been favored by 12 over anybody at any point of last season. So, moving in the right direction. Still a lot to go, but just the Ollie Jennings thing and then an actual quarterback, I think, is my reason for hope. Now, do you know something with their offensive coordinator that makes me think I should rethink that?
No, but that might be the problem. I don't know much about their offensive coordinator. He is just not. I mean, there's just not a lot to write home about. I mean, I think the vision. It feels like to me what Brent Pry wants to do. I think I called Georgia Tech's head coach Brent Pry, but that was Brent Key. But Virginia Tech, Brent Pry, I think his vision is like ground and pound is what it seems like he wants to do long term. I mean, he hired the Wisconsin offensive line coach a year ago, 2 years ago. So I see the vision for what he wants to do. That's just really hard to get to that when you're a bottom tier program to really be a Pittsburgh-esque type. We're just going to pound the ball at you. And so we'll see. I mean, maybe they get there. Ollie Jennings I think he's going to regret going to Virginia Tech because that new ODU OC is unbelievable. He put up great numbers at Fordham, and that was Ollie Jennings getting all that.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's like average like 50 points a game. I mean, just crazy stuff. So, but Virginia Tech, yeah, I think, I think we'll see. I think we'll see if they got a guy Tootin that's there, and then at running back, and then Malachi Thomas, and hopefully they can kickstart that offense, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully, Virginia Tech can get back to the Beamer days.
You got anything on Virginia Tech, Robert?
Yeah, I completely agree with this assessment. Yeah, there's better quarterback, different moves around the team, better offensive receivers, stuff like that. Yeah, I'm for that. I have them as a stairs up or even elevator up potentially. I don't know. I don't know if the gap is going to be that big, like if they can jump that far ahead, but definitely a potential stairs up team.
Okay. All right. Josh, NC State.
Yeah, so I picked NC State. For me, NC State is they're a stairs up team, and the reason for that is because I love the hire of Robert Anae. So their OC there, he was the OC at Syracuse last year, which wasn't great offensively, but they improved. And before that, he was at UVA. And Robert Anae is just one of those guys that just he just produces like great offenses, and particularly great passing offenses. He uses a lot of creativity, and so he was there with Brennan Armstrong in 2021 when Brennan Armstrong put up like 4,400 passing yards. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but like 30 plus touchdowns. I mean, he was awesome. Ran the ball a ton. And Brendan Armstrong is transferred here to NC State to reunite with Robert Anae. Robert Anae last year at Syracuse made Garrett Schrader look competent, who was just a really bad quarterback. I mean, he's a great athlete, but a bad quarterback, but improved his completion percentage quite a bit. He looked better than he had in the past. And that's not saying much, but he did better overall. And so I think Robert Anae creates a friendly offense for quarterbacks and pass friendly offense. And so I like them bringing him in versus I think it was Tim Beck that was there before. I've never been a big Tim Beck fan. So I feel like that kind of held NC State back from what their potential was. I think Devin Leary's great. Devin Carter was a good wide receiver. They had a decent room, but I think Beck ultimately held him back, and I think Anae could unlock some pieces there between, they got Terrell Timmons that's coming up there, probably the wide receiver one. They have a kid named Juice Farine, who's a freshman tight end that they kind of see as this versatile kind of big slot guy. And then another guy, Kevin Concepcion, that's a true freshman. And so they got they do have some talent there for Anae to work with, and I think that he's going to improve that offense enough to where, and I think Doran year over year has a pretty good defense, and they lose a lot of production, but I really respect Doran as a head coach and as a guy that can produce a defense, and so I really like this Anae hire, and I think for me that's why they're at 6.5 games. I think the projection. I think they can get above that. I mean, I think they can. They're kind of like year in year out. Feels like they're 8 wins a year. So I feel like they should be able to break that this year. And slight stare up for me.
Yeah, I actually the only reason I wouldn't have them as like strong stairs up is that I actually showed them with a lot of luck last season, 2 games, and that really tends to regress. But literally, you just it's like you ripped my notes from me. Let me just give you a couple of data points. First of all, was Devin Leary hurt last year? Because his production went way down. Okay, thanks.
Yes,
that makes sense. These numbers are fascinating. I'm going to give you apex buy season for Brendan Armstrong at Virginia. 95, then 138, then 61. You can just see what a difference that makes. It's awesome that these two come back together. I'm trying to figure out how to kind of monetize this to put it bluntly. I'm looking for where can I just find like maybe an opportunity to bet them team total over. Cause I think their offense is going to hit the ground running. I don't know if the market is completely on to just how quickly this is going to be. There's the market and there's people that talk. And when I hear people talk, I don't hear the discussion that you just had that has been going through my mind since since the day I saw these two were together. Maybe at Connecticut, although I think people just kind of overlook Connecticut. Maybe hosting Notre Dame, just because Notre Dame's going to get a lot of props, and Notre Dame does have a good defense. I'd be interested to see the team total on that for the Wolfpack. I think that's it, because then they have VMI, and I don't care about that. And I don't want to ban them against Virginia. I think Virginia's got a really good defense, not to spoil that later. So maybe in those first two games, just looking to take the Wolfpack as a team total over, depending on what the numbers come out at.
Yeah. Oh, and one quick thing I forgot is that they just got the transfer in Bradley Rosner from Rice, who's 6'5", 205. He's a matchup issue for sure. And he's the type of guy, I mean, we talk about scheme fits, right? And that's so key to offenses. And Bradley Rosner is a guy, deep threat. Again, 6'5", 205. He's the type of chess piece that a guy like Anai takes advantage of. Him, and then I think him as wide receiver 1 allows Terrell Timmons to slide in as wide receiver 2, and kind of so on and so forth, people in their correct positions on this offense. And so that's another big piece that's just come in there this week. And
I was going to say, yeah, that's subsequent to Phil Steele.
Yeah, yep. So this is a team that, yeah, and Hanai's a genius, and so he needs more credibility, credit for what he's done for sure.
Agree. Anything on NC State, Robert?
No, I actually do agree with that. I kind of think they are a stairs-up team. I think Leary was hurt last year. I think if you basically repair up Brennan Armstrong with past OC, I think you can have a really good team there. And yeah, I don't know. Again, we're talking about the top teams in here. We're talking about Florida State. North Carolina is still a top team. We're talking about Clemson, Duke. Can they compete with them? I don't know. I think they can potentially, but it's not completely clear that they can do that. I think they're going to be a good team, but maybe like the next best team after that top tier potentially for me. And for me, that's kind of lobby because that's kind of where they were already. So, but because they were 8-5 last year, I think. Yeah, 8-4.
Yep.
4?
Yeah, 8-5.
Yeah, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they won the bowl. Yeah, they won. Yeah, so 8-5 or lost. Yeah. So.
All right, so a few more here. We'll do these in quicker order. Syracuse, just kind of going to the other side of that horrible transaction. They lose Robert Anai. They promoted their quarterback coach, Jason Beck. I don't know anything about him. I guess he was a quarterback coach under Anai. I got to see it first with that, especially, with what I've seen of Garrett Schrader before. It needs to be proven to me. I don't like they lose Tony White, who I think was really, really good with them. He had made an improvement, although they pick up Rocky Long. I don't know how much Rocky Long's got in the tank. What is he like? He's got to be in the 70s now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So
He's great, though.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
And you can't judge by New Mexico because it's New Mexico where he was before. So, the other thing that sticks out to me about Syracuse is this is not what they hired Dino Babers for. What we're seeing on the field now, we thought we were going to see like Art Briles of, the Catskills or whatever the proper geography is. And we're just getting kind of whatever the offensive coordinator can mash together.
I'll go. Sorry. Syracuse is just like prime regression candidate for me, right? I mean, again, usually not a particularly good team. Oh, wow, we almost take out Clemson. And then we're like, well, just project that up. No, we're not projecting that up. We're like, at minimum, leveling it off, probably coming down a little bit, especially if they lose their offensive coordinator that brought a lot of that magic in the first place.
Yeah, and I'm with you guys. I think both Dino Babers and Syracuse need to move on. I feel like Dino's honestly just lost his vision. I mean, this guy was a guy that was at Bowling Green and putting up crazy numbers. Mm-hmm. And you saw the vision for what he could do. It's what Kent State, Sean Lewis is about to do at Colorado. I mean, it was awesome. And they just lost that. Like once he lost, I can't remember the quarterback, but he had a dual threat quarterback there at Syracuse.
Dungy.
Yes. Is it Eric Dungy, right?
Eric Dungy, yeah.
it's like once he lost Eric Dungy and Tommy DeVito didn't hit, I mean, he just kind of started grasping for straws, and
Yep.
transfer portal era came too late for him. I think he needs a fresh start somewhere else and regain his joy, because I don't know, that it's a program that's lost its compass, lost its way.
Yep. Agree. Pitt. We've seen this movie before. It's like nothing changes except for maybe just 1 or 2 wins each way. Another new quarterback. Mm-hmm. They lose their top receiver, have a good defense. The head coach will do 2 or 3 things that just will be absolutely derided for great reason and be huge comedy material. Rinse and repeat. That's it.
That's it. No, that's it. Rodney Hammond's going to be awesome to watch. And we'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Okay. Similarly, Wake Forest, God, why am I blanking on his name? I'm his Clausen. No, Clausen figures it out every year. No, they lose Hartman, but it's like, okay, whatever. I've done this for a living for like 10 years at Wake Forest. I get another guy. I figure it out. I teach him this whole mesh thing. We're good on offense. We stink on defense. The thing that I love about Wake Forest is that in the last 6 non-COVID seasons, only Wake and Clemson are the only ones to go to a bowl game every season. I think they're kind of out of that overlooked category and just maybe more underappreciated, not to make too fine a distinction. But we've kind of seen it. We kind of know what they're, there's not a big difference between their ceiling and their floor now, especially when there's looking at a new quarterback, I think.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I was just going to say, I agree with you. I think this guy's got to plug and play on offense with his coordinator, Warren Ruggiero. Can't say that. Probably butchered that dude's name. I apologize, Warren. But yeah, I mean, I think they're going to retool there. I think they got some good talent on that side of the ball. But and I think they're happy with their ceiling, right? Like 8 wins a year, occasionally a 9-10 win season with some upsets, and occasionally a 7-5. And this may be one of those slight regression years for them. But we'll see. I mean, like you said, they've been able to plug and play. I mean, 8-5 sounds like a good record for them. So,
this is kind of the thing. I agree. It's kind of lobby. Again, when we say lobby, it's kind of a bit of a misnomer because it's like lobby as one of the best teams in the ACC. They're not the best, obviously, but they're like just below it, right? Like they took Clemson to the wire. I believe they took Clemson to overtime, if I remember correctly. The thing is, loss of Hartman is big. Hartman might have been like the best quarterback in the transfer portal this year. Kind of a bit of shocker that Notre Dame got him, or that he didn't just go to the NFL. But I think this team has, if they can replace Hartman well, they've got a lot of good pieces around him, and their offense is always really good. But the problem is, again, defense, right? And they're not getting much better on defense, right? So can they win maybe I don't think I'm not seeing the stuff that's going to put them over the top to get them to the conference championship game or the college football playoff, at least not this year.
Yeah, and one last thing, you kind of shook loose a memory. They lost Jamie Newman to the portal too, and they still went 5-6 in the COVID year, which, if that's a rebuilding year for Wake Forest, Clausen's just, he's a magician. 5-6 used to get you a 10-year contract extension and, a statue in front of the stadium at Wake Forest.
Yeah.
All right, Virginia next. Horrible on offense. Somehow Tony Elliott takes over for a defensive-minded coach in Bronco Mendenhall, and he drops their offensive rating from a plus 6.6 to a minus 6.3. We talked about the biggest part of that, which is Anai moving on to Syracuse. The thing I don't think their offense is turning around anytime soon. They just have so many problems everywhere. I think they have the best defensive coordinator that nobody knows about in Rudzinski. He was so good at Air Force, and this defense was just nasty. And if they get without any help from the offense at all, I mean, and I think literally they'll probably improve in year 2 because they weren't really projected to show any improvement last year based on returning experience and improvement metrics. Between the nasty defense and the rebuilding offense, to be generous, I'm going to look for places to play them in an under. I think the best place there is against James Madison in the second week of the season. I don't know how much James Madison keeps on that defense, but they were, I had him as a top 10 defense. There's a whole weird thing because they beat Middle Tennessee, and Middle Tennessee did to Miami what they did. So that kind of made light bend in my model for a bit. But yeah, I see him as just an under team until more data points are available that tell a different story.
Yeah, I'm curious to see I hope this team improves. I mean, I like Tony Elliott as a person. I have questions about his decision making. How do you make such a great hire on the side of the ball that you are not an expert on? And then you hire Des Kitchings, who's like literally never done anything as offensive coordinator positive. And and you ruin, like, you had a great system or great pieces. I mean, these are NFL level pieces that he had on offense, and he messed it up. And so I have concerns there, but I would love to see, their defense be able to take them to more than three wins. So that'd be great.
Robert?
Yeah, I agree. I kind of think it's lobby, maybe some improvements around the edges, but again, we're looking at one of the worst teams in the ACC last year. Actually, I think were they the worst team?
Between them and Boston College.
Yeah, Boston College. We haven't talked about them yet, but no, again, one of the worst teams in the league, and have they improved a little bit? Yes, but again, we're now looking at this is the team that everybody else is going to beat up on, right? So, and again, at a certain point, you're just like we're bad. Is the coach okay, right? Like, this is the thing. At a certain point, it becomes demoralizing, right? And if and that's the thing. So maybe an improvement, but not much of an improvement. Probably about the same as last year.
Yep. Okay. Last one. Boston College, 3-9 last season. They're the B in GGAB, so their running offense was horrible. Phil Dracovic moved on.
What was the yards per play on that? Actually, can you tell us what that number
was?
Oh
my gosh, they were definitely under 3 per rush attempt, which is embarrassing. Their offensive line should be better, but they're starting over at quarterback. This guy Emmett Moorhead, I guess he started for him 4 times last season. His apex was 67, which is just horrible. Halfley as a defensive guy has had back-to-back pretty subpar defenses. I see them up. I see Halfley as basically, he's standing in line at club hot seat waiting for a table. It's just a matter of time before he's on he's on the way out. I think it's just proof of concept is not there.
Yeah, this again, I would judge a lot of coaches by their coordinator hires, and when you go after John McNulty, you just, that was terrible. And then he goes and hires Steve Shimko, who's the quarterback coach for a offense that regressed, and Jurkovich regressed. What are we doing? I just don't see the vision that Halfley has. Literally, is this dude just trying to lose his job? I don't understand. It's hard for me to see his vision for this team, and quicker that they can move on, Boston College, the better for them, for sure, in my opinion.
I think Boston College is kind of in some ways similar to Georgia Tech, where I think it's I think there's a couple schools that don't really care that much about football, like Boston College, Georgia Tech. Northwestern, I think, kind of fits into that as well. And again, we're going to talk about Pat Fitzgerald, I guess. Northwestern was perfectly fine, where it's every once in a while we randomly are good, but then we suck. But we're randomly good a couple times, and you know what? That's totally fine. We're okay with that. And I think Boston College and Georgia Tech are well, if we're good every once in a while, that's okay. And if we're not, then that's fine, right? I think they'd much rather be spending money on research than firing their football coach, right? So I think if they can get out of the contract, I think they will, and if not, then they I just think at this point they don't really care, and then we're just assessing whether or not we think he's a good head coach or not. And there was a lot of hype on him last year when he got Phil Jurkovich, and they did nothing. Phil Jerkovich looked horrible, and to the point where I'm actually surprised he transferred. He transferred to another team. I can't remember which team it was. But it was like actually
he transferred to go be with his. He went to Jerkovich went to Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
to go
that's
back
right.
with
Yeah,
Signetti, who was there in 2021. I mean, which he had decent numbers in 2021. How Zay Flowers didn't transfer out of there last year was just incredible. That guy should have been gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I forgot. I forgot that horrible loss to Connecticut too. That was something special.
2 catches for 35 yards. Don't remind me. It cost me a lot of money in DFS.
But he dropped like 6 or 7 though, right? That was just That was just an amazing game to watch. Apparently, that channel is not to drive into a ditch here. That channel has gone, or that network has gone bankrupt apparently. So, bringing it back to ACC, those games where where everybody would say on Twitter, "I don't know where this game is," and people would reply, "You're not missing anything." It's who knows where these games land now. Okay,
yeah, that's awesome.
So wrap it up. 2 final questions. We'll start with you, Josh. 3 Heisman bets from this conference.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers in front of me for this, but I mean, the 3 guys that I would bet on, these are just so chalk, and I apologize. But I think Cade Klubnik is a guy that I would bet on. I think that's a guy you talk about. You got to have a team that's going to potentially compete for the playoffs, and quarterbacks just often are the ones that get picked for those teams. So Cade Klubnik's one, and then the other guy, Jordan Travis, would be my second one. And I think he's a guy that Florida State could get to the playoffs, and if they do, I think Travis is the one that gets to go to New York to the Heisman ceremony. And then the third one, and I'm not super confident in this, but I don't know if there's a confident third one for me, but Drake May, if he just somehow puts up insane numbers, then I think he's got the talent to get there. But I think for me, it's either Travis or Klubnik or the field. So
Drake May throws for 500 yards in the loss to App State. No, I mean, I'll go with that. Obviously, Cade Klubnik, upside on Clemson. If Clemson were to win the conference and Cade Klubnik were to actually look pretty good. Like, again, there's a non-zero chance that Clemson were to go undefeated. If they were to go undefeated, win the conference, they're going to the playoff. And then, Cade Klubnik is going to New York, right? I don't know if that'll happen, but I think there's a possibility that if you have someone coming in now, kind of reinvigorating that offense, maybe that could happen. I'll take Riley Leonard from Duke. I did kind of like Duke. I'll take that. Wow. And I think I'll take Jordan Travis. I don't have faith. Like, the problem is North Carolina is going to lose a couple of random games. Like, I believe in Drake May, but I do not believe that he can stop those eventual 2 random losses. And that's the point, right? Because if they go 10-2, then they're not going to win the ACC championship, and then they're not going to go to the playoff, and then they're not like it's. And again, this isn't an argument for Drake May doesn't deserve the Heisman. It's an argument for these people who decide the Heisman are dumb, and their criteria is dumb, and that's. It's an important distinction to have, where it's like, I don't make the rules for the game, I just play to win the game, and it's like this is the new random rules they've created for it, and we have to play by those, right? And in that case, then I can't bet on Drake May, and it's stupid and it's dumb, but it is what it is, right?
Agreed. Yeah, I like that perspective.
Yeah. So like you all, first I have Jordan Travis in the one hole. Second, I have Cade Klubnik. One thing that I forgot to mention during Clemson, and I'm surprised you didn't bring it up since, Josh, since you know the OCs so well. I really like the hire of Garrett Riley. I want to see Garrett Riley when he's not under Sonny Dykes. Sonny Dykes is an offensive genius, and Riley's only been an OC under Dykes. So there's like a 5% chance that, like, the great and mighty Wizard of Oz is just an old man pulling levers behind a curtain. So we'll see about that. Third, I can actually see a path, since there's the hesitance about Drake May. I'll take 100-1 on Brendan Armstrong. Just the magic of Robert and I. There's worse bets in the world than 101 on that combo.
Yep.
Proven too. And like you said, the defense is usually there. Maybe they pull off. It was 2 years ago they beat Clemson at home, and I don't know why they couldn't do it again. Maybe it doesn't have the same heft, but Could happen.
Yep.
You had me salty about something, and I can't even remember now because I'm a forgiving guy, but not so forgiving. I'm just going to read something off to you real quick, okay? 5. I have 5 for you. Bethune-Cookman, Southern Miss, Virginia Tech, Virginia, and Georgia Tech. Those are the 5 teams that Miami beat last season. So we've got a little ways to go in terms of the quality of wins. So you would almost convince me not to take Miami under 7, and then I just went back to that, and I thought, man, I got to see him beat like one good team first before I kind of get off the fade bus with them. Anyways, water under the bridge. Last question. Who plays for the conference title?
Actually, I think we forgot Pittsburgh.
No. Mark got it, and then
we missed it.
He said, "Do you guys want to comment?" And I was like, "Nah, you covered it."
Okay.
Oh, do you have them in the title game, Robert? Is that why you bring them up?
No. God, no. We don't have that.
Yeah.
I'll go Clemson Duke.
Wow. I love it. Josh?
That's awesome. I hate to be so chalky, but FSU Clemson, I think, is just so far beyond every other team that I'm going to have to go this too.
Yep. I'm in the same position as you. So, all right. Well, this was fascinating. Went a little long, but definitely worth it. I enjoyed this a bunch. So thank you, everybody, for listening and watching, and we will see you again soon.
Yeah. See you, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.